Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Significant fire potential impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. We have a changing weather pattern finally coming to the Great Basin. That starts tomorrow, but for today we still have some isolated gusty winds in the central Idaho mountains, warm and dry conditions generally elsewhere, but we do have some isolated storms over southern and southeast Utah this afternoon. Tomorrow, the major changes start to happen with the cold front moving into the northern and western portions of the Great Basin, bringing some much cooler temperatures and precipitation to western Idaho and northwest Nevada. Still some gusty winds and dry conditions out ahead of that front, mainly over southern Nevada into western Utah and up into western Wyoming. We will see some isolated storms and showers pop up over the northern Utah mountains on Wednesday, even though there will be some winds. The RHs will come up and we might see some precip there, and then we have some winds in southeast Utah on Wednesday. And then the main front continues to swing through the entire Great Basin on Thursday, bringing much cooler temperatures and more widespread wetting rain and high elevation snow on Thursday. But the far southeast corner of Utah could still see some dry and breezy conditions. Okay, yesterday was a fairly quiet day for most of our area, but we did see some storms pop up over the higher elevations of central and southern Utah with a little bit of precipitation coming from those storms as well. Initial attack was very light with 4 fires for less than 1 acre and over 5,000 acres on our large fire growth. ERCs remain quite high over Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and portions of Nevada. That is going to be changing over the coming days. Closer look here at a couple of our areas. East central Idaho mountains here. We can see we've got a couple more days today and into tomorrow for some higher ERCs before those drop down below historical records. And same story for the northern Utah mountains. We've really already peaked in our ERCs in that area with some of the cloud cover we had yesterday, and we're looking for that more significant drop to come on Thursday. This morning's satellite imagery shows high pressure in place across the Great Basin today for continued warm and dry conditions across much of the area. And then we can see this nice big low pressure system coming into the Pacific Northwest that will be moving into the Great Basin beginning tomorrow. Smoke impacts continue to be around with some of our smoke mainly from our central Idaho fires and the Pack Trail fire in western Wyoming. We'll see some of that smoke. Mainly impacts today should be decreasing tomorrow as the cold front starts to move through. All right, so again for today, even by late in the day today, we can see the ridge starting to shift a little bit to the east as the trough moves into the Pacific Northwest. We do have high risk issued for some breezy winds this afternoon over the central Idaho mountains. Closer look at those winds showing that we're expecting those to be 20 to 25 miles an hour, possibly over the central Idaho mountains. Today, otherwise lighter winds everywhere else. Minimum relative humidities are quite low over Nevada. They've come up a bit over the last couple of days in Utah with some cloud cover associated with that low that came through last week. And then minimum relative humidities are still pretty low in Idaho for one more day. All right, on Wednesday, that main low starts to move into the Great Basin. We're really just looking at it entering far western and central Idaho and northeast or northwest Nevada on Wednesday. But we do see some moisture out ahead of that main low or that main front, bringing some showers to the northern Utah mountains. Otherwise, we have quite a bit of high risk for portions of Nevada, west central Utah, and up into eastern Idaho and western Wyoming for those prefrontal dry gusty winds. Tomorrow is definitely a day of transition as that front moves through. So gusty winds across much of the area tomorrow. These are going to be kind of shifting winds throughout the day as the front moves through. Mostly dry gusty winds out of the southwest across Nevada, Utah, up into eastern Idaho and western Wyoming, and then some westerly to northwesterly winds behind the front further north and west. Minimum relative humidities really come up across Idaho and northwest Nevada tomorrow, but we still see some dry air over western Nevada, eastern Nevada, western Utah, eastern Idaho, southeast Utah, but some pockets here in the higher elevations where the RHs are coming up in Utah. Precipitation totals for Wednesday look pretty good for, again, western and central Idaho and northwest Nevada, with these green values here, 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of precipitation, and some of these pink pockets could be up to 1/2 inch. So a significant precipitation event coming in beginning on Wednesday. And then here in Utah, the precip amounts will be lighter, but high elevation showers here along the higher elevations of northern and central Utah. Maximum temperatures begin to come down behind that front as well, with max temperatures in the 50s and 60s in Idaho, western Idaho and northwest Nevada, but still quite warm. Out ahead of the front, 80 degrees tomorrow again in Salt Lake. On Thursday, the low continues to swing through the Great Basin, really bringing that much cooler air, low elevation rain, high elevation snow to much of the Great Basin. We just have a couple of areas, far southern Utah and southeast Utah. We'll still see dry, breezy conditions ahead of that front. We do have high risk for some of those winds. Winds on Thursday, again, will be pretty breezy. Some of these winds will be behind the cold front. Here we can kind of see anywhere north of far southern Nevada and southwest Utah here will be behind the front, so breezy northerly winds. But out ahead of that front, we could still see some gusty southerly or southwesterly winds. Minimum relative humidities are generally up across much of the Great Basin, but some still dry areas ahead of the front, southern Nevada, southern and southeast Utah. Precipitation for Thursday should be another good day with many of these lighter kind of fluorescent greens coming in at that 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of rain. So a really good precipitation day, low elevation rain, high elevation snow across much of the Great Basin, and our temperatures drop dramatically by Thursday across the entire area. So highs are going to be stuck in the 50s and 60s on Thursday. 3-day precip totals are shown here. Pretty good precip event coming to the basin. There will be some areas that receive more precipitation. Unfortunately, the east central Idaho mountains may not see quite as much where we have that Black Eagle fire. But elsewhere where we have our large fires, we should see some decent precip totals. Utah sees a 1-2 punch Wednesday into Thursday and into Friday associated with that low. So if we look again into Fridays, that low really drops down right into the Great Basin. Moisture hangs around in central and eastern Utah and up into western Wyoming, where they'll see another day of good precipitation with some drying already happening on the west side of the basin. Significant fire potential really decreases area-wide. Then on Saturday, that low remains in place over Utah, again keeping it an active day for showers, rain and snow showers across Utah, but dry again across Idaho and Nevada. On Sunday, as that low lifts a little bit further north to exit the area, we do see some moisture coming back into the north for another round of precipitation there. And that could continue into Monday as well as we start to flatten out may see some precipitation lingering on Monday across the north, but drying across Nevada and Utah. 7-day totals are pretty significant again here. Utah really looks to be the big winner with a multi-day event coming to the area. Precipitation totals 3/4 to an inch of precipitation across much of the state. And then the west central Idaho mountains could see some good totals as well, around an inch, and western Wyoming, just the same there. The extended forecast for October 22nd through the 28th puts cooler temperatures to our north and west, warmer temperatures to our east, and above normal chances for precip across much of the area. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.